A lot of you asked me to look into the LBL, so I thought I would take a dive into it and maybe even talk a little bit about, on the live coming up maybe. But I've been digging into it and I found something that I thought y'all might find interesting, as I found that it was pretty interesting. And there'll be at least a part 2 on this being the part 1. So, yeah, I learned a lot by doing this, so let's go ahead and get into it. It says, legend speaks of a man who left Europe in the 1800s to settle between the rivers. This man was supposedly possessed by a disease that turned him mad after nightfall. The disease was believed to be genetic and was passed from parent to child over the years. They remained in seclusion, never going to school or having the desire to socialize with others until one day when they went silent. Many believed that the family had died. An investigation in the early 1900s revealed that their homestead was vacant and abandoned. Early accounts from the French explorers and traders in the region speak of their being warned of the shadowy presence of a loup-garou by Shawnee fur traders. A later legend claims that the monster is the spirit of a shape-shifting Shawnee shaman who was killed in wolf form by the inhabitants of this village for abusing his powers. His spirit is said to still walk in the woods in search of revenge. Accounts of this creature from the early days of American expansion into Kentucky tell of hunters disappearing into the woods, and of strange, unnatural howls that echoed through the forests at night. At this time, bison still roamed the wild in Kentucky, and hunters would sometimes encounter mutilated carcasses of these massive animals, lying half-eaten in the deep grass, their throats ripped open by massive claws. Even now, with the efforts to restore the bison to Kentucky, the rangers and the herd managers occasionally find calves missing. The herd is reputedly spooked for days, sticking together in the close formation that the animals use to protect themselves from predators. They have seen several reports of close encounters with this creature in modern times. One of the most frightening of these happened to a group of Murray State University students who were camping in the land between the lakes in 1973. A group of young men were enjoying the woods on a warm spring weekend, sitting around a fire built by their microbists and just generally having a fine time. As the evening began drawing in, one of the students went off into the woods to answer the call of nature. When he returned to the campsite, he told his friends that he had felt like something was watching him, and that he heard something sniffing in the woods. His friends said that he had just heard a wild hog or some other animal. The student said he had never heard anything like it before, and he grew increasingly nervous as the darkness began to gather. As the night grew dark, the group started to hear the shuffling sound of something large moving in the fallen leaves. It seemed to be circling their campsite, moving incredibly swiftly. The boys began to become anxious. They shined their flashlights into the woods in the direction of the footsteps, but saw nothing. And then the howling began. It was a wild, insane howling, like a wolf, only much louder than any wolf could ever be, and with the unnatural, blood-curdling quality that made the howling sound almost like mocking laughter. It seemed to come from everywhere around them. First one side of the circle of light around the fire, and then from another. Soon the terrified campers began to catch glimpses of a pair of glowing red eyes as they ran past in the dark. The terrified boys retreated to their Volkswagen and wisely decided not to stick around to get a better view. Tearing down the road, they saw what they what they were being pursued, and that was a massive shadowy figure with a racing behind them. Barely visible, the bus's taillights. It should have been the bug's taillights. As the bug slowed to take a corner, they felt a massive jolt, and then it seemed as if something was holding the Volkswagen back. Giving it everything, they broke free and tore out of the forest and didn't stop until they were back to the Murray County State campus. Back on campus, they found their deep gashes like claw marks torn into the metal of the engine compartment, cover at the back of the bus. Another widely circulated story tells its discovery of a bloody scene inside the motorhome of a family camping in the area in the 1980s. Police are said to have found horribly mutilated bodies, a visiting family lying in their blood-soaked motorhome, and the half-eaten body of the family's young daughter lodged in a nearby tree. The bodies are all said to have had distinctive massive claw marks. This incident was supposedly covered up by the authorities so as to not damage the tourist industry and then the economically fragile region. Evidence for and encounters of the beast between the lakes continue to this day. Experienced hunters shy away from the area, but those sportsmen who are new enough to the area to scout off the legends often come home with tales of feeling as if they were being stalked in the woods. Deep holes like nests are often found dug in the woods, with tufts along the coarsely textured grayish brown within the ranger's part. Routinely asked what the strange howling was and the camper heard during the night. I live in West Kentucky, 30 minutes from the LBL. I've tried hunting these things more than once. It was Moss Creek where the family was butchered by this thing. That's when they put up a gate there and banned overnight camping, and it closes down at sunset. The excuse they gave at the time to the preserve tourism is that there was a random stabbing one night and 2 cops talked to a girl at a well-known gas station type store and were regularly there, and they told her about what they saw. No bodies or body parts, but shredded bloody clothes. Some of a kid on the ground and some trees, blood everywhere. The girl told me this personally, and I will leave it at that. This happened in the late 80s. I've talked to old-timers in Grand Rivers. They all basically say the same thing. That is real. Some wouldn't talk about something like that if it wasn't real. These police officers were very serious. I've read about this, guys, and I've heard about the land between the lakes, and they said that they were pretty destroyed. Pretty gruesome scene. They said there was a survivor, if I remember right, and I think he's been on a few shows. And there was some question to where some people wonder if he was really the survivor or if he wasn't. I don't know. I don't know him, and I don't know the case familiar. I'm not familiar with it really at all. So, I couldn't say, but I am going to look into this. But they say he survived it. And I believe there was a gun used that night, too, if I remember right. Somebody might have been shot by the gun or something like that. If y'all remember, drop it in the comments. I don't remember exactly. But I hope you all enjoy this one. There will be a part 2 on this, and then we'll see how much further we go down this road if you all like it or not. But hey, thanks for watching, guys. Keep your head on a swivel. Don't be something's dinner. Sorry about the phone going off. I thought I had it on silent, but I bumped it and kicked it on, so I apologize for that. And until next time, guys, be safe. And don't be something's dinner, lunch, or supper.